So much, Emily. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, it was wonderful meeting you in person and seeing everybody in person too in fabulous Fargo this winter. Well, thank you so much again for letting us present this. My name is Fawaz Hussain. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Nodus Technologies. We're a division of Evo Payments. And we are essentially going to be learning about accounts receivables today, how to automate, integrate, and then repeat. So today's agenda is simple. We're going to talk about some of the inefficiencies associated with accounts receivables. We're going to talk about how do you optimize your AR process. And then towards the end, we're going to show a quick demo of how Nodus can help you, or what options do you have as a GP users to streamline and to make your accounts receivable process efficient. So let's start off with identifying what are some of the pain points associated with accounts receivables. So the number one is integration. Integration is probably one of the biggest challenge. Without integration, there is essentially what we call a gap between your payments and your accounting system. If your payments is not connected to your accounting system, that's what we call your AR integration gap. It's very important to bridge that gap. Without integration, you are essentially relying on manual key entry, manual data entry, a lot of human interactions. And along with that, there's a lot of errors, the chances of errors that can happen. And along with that, obviously, you have no real-time reporting. If your payments are not connected or your AR is not connected with your accounting system, then you're basically lacking real-time reporting. With lack of integration comes the next second pain point, and that is manual labor. Whenever you have to do something when it's not automated, you're relying on humans or your workforce to actually do all these things themselves. Like for example, in an AR team, you're relying someone in your office to collect payments from their customers, process the payment manually, then go back to your accounting system, figuring out which payment goes to which invoice, and then update that. All that GL entry and everything, all of that is manual, which is, as we talked about, it is very it's prone to errors because obviously you're relying on somebody typing in and everything. There could be human error, but at the same time, it's a very lengthy process, and time is money. You can essentially you can automate these tasks so this way your teams can utilize their time more efficiently. Now, with manual labor, there's another pain point that comes into place, and that is security. When you do things manually, when you're relying on someone to as a human to manually enter the payment information or process the payment or to do the back-end bookkeeping data entry in your accounting system, you're also exposing yourself to potential data breach or basically high risk of lack of compromising security, because now you have to expose your customers' payment data to your staff. So let's go back to the example I said. Like, let's say if you don't have a automated AR system, you have a person who sits in your office who processes payments manually. Now, that person will have to collect that payment from their customers manually, right? So your customers will have to call your team members. Somebody has to take the credit card number down or check in a mail or something. So now that person is exposed to that credit card data, and that credit card data can very easily be compromised. They can accidentally write on a piece of paper. Your customers can accidentally email you. So there's so many areas where the leak can happen, and due to which you can have a breach in your security. So lack of integration connected to manual labor by humans involving with their interaction, and then which is associated with security. So these are the three major pain points as an organization you face when it comes to AR accounts receivables. Now, there is one more pain point associated, but that's on the other side of the fence, other side of the equation, and which is from your customer's side, from a customer's convenience, if you don't offer an automated way for your customers to make their payments, or in any intuitive way, like if you don't offer like a payment portal or any electronic method, then the chances are you're causing your customers a great deal of inconvenience. If the only way for them to make a payment is to call you during your business hours or to mail you a check, that's a lot of work, and the chances are these can be very off-putting for your customers. These processes could be lengthy, confusing, and can cause a lot of frustration. So these are essentially the typical pain points associated with AR: integration, manual labor, security, and customer inconvenience, or kind of customer convenience. Now, the second part of this is that what is a typical AR process, and how does that look like? How do you automate it? So what we have done over here is we have created a very simple, high-level diagram that visually show you what a typical AR process look like. Now, some of you can relate to this. Some of you can probably say, hey, ours looks pretty similar to that. Some of you may have a lot more complicated process than what I'm about to show you. And some of you might even have something even simpler. But again, this is what I'm showing you. This is what a typical AR process looks like. So in a typical AR process, number one step is having an invoice created for your customers and get that invoice posted to their account. So in accounting terminology, posting an invoice means the invoice is now associated with the customer's balance and is now is ready to be paid. So you have an invoice, you create it, and then you post it. So that's step one. Step two is to deliver that invoice to your customers, whether it's in an email or if it's an actual paper mail. The point is somehow you need to let the customer know that, hey, this invoice is ready and this is what the invoice is. The third step is, which a lot of you can probably relate to, is sending reminders. Most oftenly, we have to send multiple reminders to our customers, letting them know that, hey, you still have an outstanding balance, please make a payment. Once your customer is ready to pay, I'm not even going to talk about how do you collect that payment, because that will open up take me to a rabbit hole. But let's say you receive a payment, whether it's a check in mail or somebody called you to give you credit card number over the phone or something. But once you receive that payment information, you're essentially going to process that payment. If it's a credit card, you probably use some sort of a virtual terminal to process a payment, or even maybe a desktop terminal. If it's a check, you might have a scanner on your desk, or you might do a lockbox, or maybe even drive to the bank and deposit it manually. So the point is that however you process a payment, you're going to process a payment once you receive that payment information from your customers. Now, once that payment is completed, you're going to send them a confirmation receipt, because you have to let them know that you have already processed the payment. Now, again, over here, there's a lot of other sub-branches, sub areas where you can branch out. Like, for example, if the payment didn't go through, you will have to start the cycle all over again and get a new credit card number or the new payment information from your customer. But in this case, we're going to assume the payment went through, everything was good, and you send a confirmation. Once that confirmation is sent, the last step in your AR process is to apply that payment to your accounting system, basically balance out your books. So in this example, we're talking about GP. So go back into GP, go to that customer account, open up that invoice, and then say that, hey, it has been paid. So basically in GP, you will create a cash receipt and you will apply to that invoice. So the point is that now you're reflecting that balance to the customer's account. So this way, in your system, it shows that the customer has already made a payment. So this is what a typical AR process looks like. Now, what I did here is I highlighted some of these steps which essentially can be automated. So I'm going to show you what an automated process look like. Everything highlighted should be able to be done by an AR automation system. A true AR automation system delivers the invoices for you, sends reminders. You can set up automatic payments for auto pays You can allow customers to make payments on their own, sends automatic receipts to the customers when the payment is successfully processed, and then most importantly, integrates back into Great Plains or accounting system to make sure that the payment has offsetted the balance. So this is what a typical this is what an automated AR process should look like. Now, what I'm talking here about is something that's not out of ordinary, something that's not super new. It's basically what I'm suggesting is use an intuitive customer portal for your customers to go online and make payments on their own. And that's what an AR automation tool looks like. It's essentially allowing or empowering your customers to take charge of their payments so they can make payments on time. Self-service payment portals have been around for a while. We all use this in our lives. Each one of us listening to this presentation is using, and I can pretty much guarantee that you're using some sort of a payment portal online in your lives, whether it's to pay your cell phone bills, your utility bills, your any type of bill that you have to make a payment. In some fashion, you use an online payment. So just the way we expect that whoever that we're doing business, like for example, you're not going to sign up for a cable company who does not have an online payment portal. Like if somebody says that, hey, sign up for my cell phone, this cell phone service, but the only way to make a payment is by calling customer service or by mailing a check, you will probably think twice before signing up for that cell phone service. So just the way we have expectations that everyone that we're going to deal with, they're going to essentially go online and have an online portal so we can easily pay our bills. Our customers have exact same expectations. Our customers are expecting that if we are doing business with them, we are going to allow them to make their payments on their own and in a secure manner. So besides everything that we have talked about, like self-service portal itself has tons of benefits. Studies have shown that it improves punctuality, it improves loyalty, and also in some cases it even increase sales. Like there was a study that was done that shows that customers that pay their bills online through your portal, they tend to buy more services from you or more products from you. So we talked about identifying some of the pain points. Then we talked about automating your AR process. The next subject that I want to talk about is what I will say is probably one of the most important part of this equation is on the security side, and why having an automated AR is so important. Besides, we talked about efficiencies and reducing data entry, reducing chances of human errors. Another really important part of it is that to reducing the exposure to data breach or any type of security threat that you may face. So one thing that a lot of businesses don't realize, that when it comes to payments, as a merchant, which means as a business who takes payments from the customers, it is 100% your responsibility to protect your customers' credit card data. If you don't handle your customers' payment data securely, the chances are that you may become a victim of a data breach, and if that data is stolen, then you're 100% liable for that. So there is a security council out there called PCI Security Council, which essentially makes sure that it protects all the credit card holder data. So, and how does it protect it? So each one of us is a card holder, right? You have a credit card, I have a credit card. So everyone who has a credit card, we're a card holder. And PCI Security Council is what makes sure that we are essentially protected. And how does it make sure that we are protected? It makes sure that we are protected by putting laws and regulations in place for businesses who take payments, so they can take payments in a secure manner. So one of the easiest way to understand this is, I always use this as an example. Think of this as a Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So like a traffic, when you go out, when you drive, there are a lot of rules and regulations. There's red lights, stop signs, turn lanes, speed limits. all of these rules and regulations are in place for safety. So the idea is that as long as the drivers are following these rules and regulations, the chances of getting into an accident significantly reduces. That's basically the way PCI compliance works. PCI Security Council says that, hey, as long as businesses follow these rules and regulations when it comes to securing customers' data, the chances of getting into an accident is significantly dropped. And in this case, accident is a data breach, right? Now, there are a lot of misconceptions about PCI compliance, that it's only applicable to large businesses like Walmart or McDonald's or like Amazon. The fact is that PCI is applicable to anyone. Doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, or how do you take payments, whether you have a retail brick and mortar store, or whether you have a mail telephone order type of environment, you have an e-commerce website. No matter how you take the payment, no matter how big you are, PCI is applicable to you. And it's not one size fits all, by the way. So for every business is a different requirement. For one business, PCI requirements could be a little different than the other business based on the nature of their business. So there's this really interesting website that I have listed over here on the top right corner. It says PCISecurityStandards.org. You can go on this website. You can learn a lot about PCI compliance, and you can see what's going on in the world of PCI compliance, what are some of the new regulations. One of the things that also is very important in this is that not just businesses that take payments from their customers, they have to be PCI compliant, but also the software that you use for payment processing must be PCI compliant as well. So anytime you use you want to use an AR automation tool or credit card payment software, anything you want to use, you have to make sure that it is PCI compliant, because PCI compliance makes sure that, hey, the way the security is written behind the scenes on the software is according to the regulations. In fact, these regulations changes very, very often, sometimes a couple times a year. And as a software vendor, it is our responsibility for us to keep an eye and keep up to date with these changes to make sure that we are always up to date on our software too. So whenever something comes up that PCI said, hey, we have a new security protocol that your software must follow, we will have to update our software, and we will update everything that we have. So yeah, so PCI compliance is all over. It makes sure that businesses that take payments are doing it in the right way, and then softwares that you use are also certified. Now, there are a lot of benefits also to be PCI compliant. Like, first of all, if you are a business that is PCI compliant, you sometimes interchanges like Visa, MasterCard, they give you, they reward you by lower transaction fees. This way, it's sort of like a reward that, hey, good job, you're helping us fight fraud. So they gave you better rates on your credit card fees. In an event, there is a compromise, like in an event, there is a data breach, you're in safe harbor, because you can technically say that, hey, listen, I did everything that I'm supposed to do, because it's sort of like an insurance, right? So you can say that you've basically been following all the rules and regulations, and this is my PCI certification, and I am PCI certified. So it basically it helps you in that situation. And then lastly, also it reduces the risk of breach, and these breaches are very, very costly. If you are following if you are PCI compliant, if you are using a software that is certified, and if your processes are secure, then you're significantly reducing the risk of a data breach. And these are very costly. How costly? There was a study that was done by IBM in 2020 that an average total cost of a data breach for a company is about $3.86 million. This alone is enough that it can put some companies on a path of bankruptcy if they don't take this seriously. And the bigger issue that was found on the same study was lost business. An average, it shows that 40% of the total cost of the data breach basically comes from lost businesses, which includes customer turnover, system downtime, and also increased cost of new business, right? Now, this is something also we can relate to, right? Like if you think about it, if you hear in news about a company being a victim of a data breach, you're going to think twice before doing business with them, because obviously it's like going to a restaurant that you just heard that this restaurant didn't pass their food rating because they weren't keeping up with the cleanliness, for example. You're going to think twice going back to it, even when they come back and they say, hey, no, we keep our kitchens clean. So think of it that way. There are a lot of benefits of being PCI compliant, but most importantly, on the security side, to protect yourself from costly data breaches. So now let's look at some of these things that we have talked about. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to share my screen, and in this example, I'm using Great Plains because the audience for this webinar is great Microsoft Dynamics GP users, but we integrate with other ERP systems as well. I'm going to talk about the PayFabric customer portal that we have that we have launched, which essentially is what we call our AR automation tool. So PayFabric is our cloud-based payment engine. It's a fully cloud-based payment solution. It has two components to it. There's a component that sits inside of Great Plains, which allows you to process and manage payments within GP, but it also has a customer-facing component as well, like a website where your customers can go online and make payments. So just to kind of show you a very quick example, like let's say if you want to process a payment directly from GP. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a cash receipt, which essentially a typical GP process. You're familiar with that. I'm going to enter a dollar amount and I'm going to hit tab. So now what happens is it shows me that, hey, it opens up this little window over here called the e-transaction entry window. This is basically where our PayFabric payment engine kicks in. Now, here's a really important part of this. Although this looks like it's part of GP, in reality, this is coming directly from our cloud because none of this data is in GP. You can process payments in GP. You can, do whatever you want. You can even save payment information for future use. But in reality, your GP is never, ever exposed to any customer's credit card data. So here I'm going to go ahead and process a payment. It's going to process a payment for me. And it will tell me right away if it went through or not. In this case, the credit card went through, so I got an approval message. If this payment was declined, I would have gotten a decline message and the process would have stopped right here. And at the back end, the system has already sent an email confirmation to the customer too. So just where the customer knows that, hey, they have received a payment confirmation. So the customer does, so you don't have to mail anything. And just to kind of show you what it looks like, this is basically what a simple template looks like. I just processed this payment for $100. Again, this is just a template. You can write whatever you want to write on it, but the point is that every time a payment is processed, a confirmation is sent to the customer directly. Okay, so this is just to show you an example of how you process payment directly inside of Great Plains, but our main focus today is an AR automation side. How do you allow your customers to make payments and how the system process payments automatically and whatnot? So this is a customer-facing payment portal. You can completely change the look and feel of this, so please ignore, this is just my logo here. I mean, you can change all of this look and feel if you want, or if you just want to update the logo, you can do that as well. But the way this works is, so let me explain you how it works and I'll show it to you. So picture the AR cycle that I showed you earlier, right? So let's say you have an invoice in Great Plains. The moment that invoice is posted, immediately that invoice is available on the portal. And at the same time, customer is notified that, hey, there's an invoice for you ready. Customers can go online, they can view that invoice, they can download it, print it, whatever they want to do, and then they can make a payment. They can pay using credit card or by a check. Once that payment is processed, the system will send that payment back into Great Plains it will create a cash receipt, and it will apply that payment to that invoice. All of that happens in a very seamless, integrated manner with essentially no interaction or human interaction required from the time payment is processed to is entered in GP. So let's look at that. So I'm going to log in as a customer right now. So I'm a customer. If I log in, it will take me to a list where I can see a list of my outstanding invoices. So I have these 3 outstanding invoices. Right now, my total balance is $804. I can actually even see, you can even show them if you have any credit on file. So although my balance is $800, but I also have $1,600 credit from you. And not only that I can see this credit, I can actually use this credit and apply it towards my outstanding balance too. I can drill down on any of these invoices to see the details of this invoice. I can download a copy of this if I want to. Or I can just make a payment. I can pay these in full, multiple invoices, or I can even make partial payments. Like I can pay $100 on this invoice, or I can pay $200 on this invoice. Like up to you how you want to do that. Okay, so let's step back for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create an invoice in Great Plains so I can show you from the beginning. So let's say you have GP, and I'm going to create an invoice, and I'm going to call this IS Implementation Specialist Webinar Test INV. I'm going to put it for $100. And let's put one more item number 2 for $200. Okay, so I have an invoice for $321. I'm going to go ahead and hit post. And what's going to happen is that now it's going to be synchronized over to the portal, and it's going to be available. I'm going to be sent an email, and I will see it in an email that this invoice essentially is created. Now, by the way, some of you use Key to Act for your invoicing, which is fine. This works with that as well, and I will show you the Key to Act and how that looks like as well. So this is right now standard GP invoice. When I came back over here, I just refreshed the page. So this invoice is here. See, this is the invoice that I just created. IS Webinar INV, and I have my like all the details over here. And just to kind of show you what that looks like on a link, actually, give me one second. I am waiting for that link. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make a payment now to show you what that payment looks like and how it ends up into GP. I'm going to go ahead and hit pay, continue to pay. And it will take me to my review and payment page where I can see what am I paying, what my total is. Here, $321. I have my payment information on file. This is the same credit card that you saw in Great Plains because all of this is coming directly from the PayFabric cloud. I can change it. I can, as a customer, I have 2 checks and 2 credit cards on file. I can either use these ones or I can type in a new credit card if I want to. For further security, you can also enforce people to add their CVV2 code, those 3 digits behind the credit card. But again, I have it disabled because this is my demo environment. You can make it mandatory. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm and pay. It's going to go ahead and process the payment, and it will tell me right away if this payment was approved or declined. In this case, the payment is approved, so I got an approval message. A copy of this receipt has already been sent in an email to me. And it shows you a friendly message that, hey, it went to this email address. But if I want to send it to someone else, I can click on this button and I can email it to some other email addresses if I want to, or I can even download a copy of this invoice. Another thing I can always do, I can always come back in my history and I can look at those invoices over there as well. So let's look at this payment in GP right now. So payment number 271. It should be for $321. So if I come over here and if I look at payment number Actually, let me just go ahead and, sorry, I have a lot of here. You know what? I'm gonna actually just go ahead and I'm gonna do a shortcut. I'll just go ahead and copy this number. So 271, so PFR 000271. And instead of looking up an invoice, I'm just gonna go ahead and paste that over here, 271. See, it came in right away for $321. And not only that it came in right away, if I hit the apply button, I will see that it was applied to the right invoice for the right amount. If I paid multiple invoices, it would have been applied to multiple invoices. So everything is mapped out as the payments are being made throughout the day. It will essentially, the system will process that payment and will apply that payment back into GP in real time as well. So this way, whenever the payment is made right away, Great Plains is updated, so your reporting is updated. You will have a real-time visibility on who's making a payment, who hasn't made a payment, and all of this without having people keying in or doing anything manually. So here now, going back to the portal, a couple of the other things, like you can also allow people to pay in Autopay. These are many different type of contracts. I mean, this is my test environment, so I have 3 random ones, but you can essentially create a monthly Autopay contract or however you want. And as a customer, I can just click on it and I can just sign up for I can activate Autopay or sign up for Autopay. So this way, whatever the parameters are for that Autopay contract, my system will automatically process those payments according to those parameters and will update GP. We can also do prepayments, like if you want to process like a deposit or something like that. Or one of my favorite areas is this history that I briefly talked about earlier. So on the history side, I can see all the payment activities and it can sync everything from GP as well. So from the beginning of time, it doesn't have to be when the portal was implemented. So all the payments from GP will be reflected here too. And we have this really, really powerful filter system, which essentially allows you to filter the data. Like you can see all the credits, all the returns, all the payments, or payments that were made in last 30 days or this week, last month, or even on a specific date range or amount. So like, for example, if you say, hey, I want to see all the payments that were made this year, or so in last 6 months that were more than $1,000, you can easily do that and it will list you out over here. And for each one of these payments, you can essentially drill down and you can see the details of this payment and you can download a copy of a receipt. So see, this payment was made using this credit card, so essentially like on this date. And then I can also manage my wallet. I can see what credit card information I have on file. Then I can also add a new credit card if I want to, or I can even manage all my users as well. So I can, if I work in a corporation where I want to add some other coworkers who are going to be essentially going in making payments, I can add them as well, and I can even give them, like as an admin, I can give them what type of access they want. Now, the last portion that I want to show you, actually, let me very quickly show you the key to act one. So again, it's very similar. Everything is same. It's just that the key to act has little different invoice layout. So this is a sample of a key to act invoice that has item code and unit price. This is, I think, another example. So again, like just because, no matter whether you create an invoice through key to act or even if you create an invoice through Great Plains, the system can support all of that. Okay, the one last part I'm going to show you here is on the customer service side. On the customer service side, we have, there's an admin portal. Actually, give me 1 second. Let me. So from the administrative portal, you can do a couple of things. Like you can do technical settings if you want, and this is your part. So this is not a customer facing, this is for you as an internal organization. You can allow your IT folks in here, you can allow your accounting folks in here, you can allow your customer service folks in here, up to you how you want to do it. Let me go to the demo environment I was using. So you can have multiple organizations, like if you have multiple entities to your business and whatnot. And even for, I'm going to go to pay receivables, for example. So that's essentially the part that I want to show you. So again, by the way, everything that I'm showing you is basically tip of an iceberg, just on a high level. This is most commonly what people do is give their accounting team or their AR team access to this area. Over here, you can have a snapshot of the company to see how many people haven't paid yet, how many auto pays you have out there, how many outstanding invoices you have out there. You can even like manage customers from here. So let's say if I work in your company and if I'm one of your accountant, so this is a list of all my customers directly coming from GP. So hypothetically speaking, I'm on phone with, like, let's say Aaron Fitz Electrical, right? I can drill down to their account. I can view their account. I can pay invoices. I can sign them up for Autopay. This is basically the exact same menu options that you saw on the customer portal site. So the idea is that whatever a customer can do on their own, as a service rep, you can do that on behalf of a customer. So if a customer calls and say, hey, I want to make payment, I can be like, sure, this is your invoices. You have all these invoices open. Which one do you want to pay? And I can select the ones that he wants to pay, continue to pay. So essentially, just the way customer makes a payment, customer service rep can process payments on behalf of a customer. And I'm gonna, on top of that, you can also do some collections over here too, where you can see that, hey, this is all the outstanding invoices. The system has an automatic email reminders that go out, but if you want, you can send them email like letters from here as well. And so however I want to filter my invoices, I can select the invoices and I can select them and send them an email. Like you can have multiple letters format like this is, and you can name it whatever you want. Our product team was, they thought it'd be funny if they make 3 letters. One is called friendly reminder, other one is less friendly, and the third one is not so friendly. So again, the point is that each letter can have its own wordings, own template to it. And in all of them, you can embed a link in it for them to make a payment, whether through login or through a quick payment without the need of login. So I can select whichever letter I want to send. So if you want to send collection letters from here, you can do that as well. So that was essentially as I mentioned, a very, very high level overview of what our AR automation tool does, what PayFabric receivables do. These are some of the options you have as a GP user to automate, streamline, and most importantly, secure your receivable processes using this system. If you want to see this in detail, please reach out to your representative at Implementation Specialist, and they'll be more than happy to schedule a meeting with our team, somebody in our team who essentially can walk you through the system and most importantly, understand your requirements and show you how this can work in your environment. So just to kind of wrap up here to give you an overview of who we are, like as broad service offerings, we specialize in payment processing, customer payment portal that I showed you, e-commerce, payment hyperlinks. I didn't really show you this, but I briefly mentioned that we have ways where you can send like payment links to customers too. Like I like to joke around and say it's like Venmo for businesses, but the idea is that you can send a link in a text message or an email to a customer to collect payment from them. A full receivables management, the last part that I showed you, and then most importantly, we also provide merchant services too. We are a processor ourselves. Nodus is part of a company called Evo Payments. Evo is one of the largest payment processor globally. We have presence in Americas and Europe. We specialize in payment processing, and one of the biggest benefit that you have working with us is that because we are a processor ourselves, we don't rely on third-party gateways or third-party processors. by eliminating that third-party middleware or middle person, you not only save a lot of money on your fees, but at the same time, you save a lot of headache on your support side, because now you only have one number to call, which is us. In an event, if you have any troubles, if you have any issue that you're facing, you can only have to call Nodus, and we will help you no matter where the problem lies. That's because everything's under one roof. Like, we are a processor and a fully end-to-end solution. We support both US international processing. We talked about we are PCI level 1 compliant, which is the highest level of security. And we also specialize in B2B payments, where essentially if you have a requirement where you want to submit level 2, level 3 data, specifically if you work with like a lot of government issued credit cards, we have a very strong experience in that as well. So with that, I'm gonna thank you again and hand it. I'm gonna thank you again for watching this. I'm gonna hand it over to Emily, back to Emily. And this is our contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And Emily, thank you so much. The floor is yours.